Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, I am in Lihu'e, Hawaii at Star 94.3 KHKU-FM. We're about to talk to Hal Kneller and Joe Fiorini, and we got some fun things to talk about, including this recent topic of AM radio being removed from some cars and then put back in, and where does all that lead us? Is it a temporary reprieve and so forth? Plus, we have some technical things to talk about with Hal and Joe, and these guys are good engineers, so I can't wait to talk to them. Also, by the way, on the show that's upcoming, yes, I know the audio sucks. I'm so sorry. I made the same mistake as I did doing the show myself without the help of SunKast at the NAB show. There was an extra open microphone that picked up room audio, and not good. I'm sorry. We've cleaned it up as best we can, and I hope you do enjoy the show because the content is actually really good. Coming up next on TWiRT.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. By Nautel, worry-free transmission you can count on with outstanding control, reliability, efficiencies, and Nautel's unmatched 24/7 customer support. Online at nautel.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts.
Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. It's the show where we talk about everything from the light bulb at the top of the tower. I'm actually at a station that has no light bulb at the top of the tower, and the to the microphone. Yeah, microphone to the light bulb. Anyway, hey, we're in Lihu'e, Hawaii. If you don't know where that is, well, look at Hawaii. Look to the far west. The westmost island is Kauai. It's the one that's getting smaller because pieces of it are falling off into the Pacific Ocean, while the volcano is building bigger island on the Big Island. And we're doing This Week in Radio Tech here from Lihu'e. We're at the studios of Star 94.3 KHKU, which is kind of stands for Hoku, which is the Hawaiian word for star. I'm Kirk Harnack, delighted to be here, and I've got not one, but two great guests here with us, engineers who are going to talk about all kinds of things to engineering. Yes, I got laid. A couple days ago, and still wearing the remnants of that. Big appreciation to our advertisers, Nautel and BGS and who else? Oh, and Max Connect Wireless and Angry Audio, all great sponsors of This Week in Radio Tech. Now, let's get the wide shot. This is my high-tech wide shot right there, and now we'll switch to the wide shot. Look, here we are in the studio with the star over in the corner. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hal Kneller. Hal, raise your hand. And also Joe Fiorini. Hey, Joe. Good to see you guys. We're going to switch to two shots. But I wanted to give you a view of what the studio actually looked like. Probably somebody will come through that door during the show, so I'm sure that'll be exciting.
Even though we have a light.
Yes, we do have a light. It's on. Yeah. We're actually here. I'll show you. We're actually using the audio console from Axia. It's the little Axia Radius console here. And so there we go. It was kind of tough to set all this up. Let's get on that two shot. There's Hal and Joe. Joe on the left, Hal on the right side of your radio dial. Hal, let's get a real quick introductions and tell us who you are. You've been on the show before, Hal.
I have. We talked about synchronous boosters. We talked about hurricane recovery. A couple of times I've been on your show.
Yeah. And Joe Fiorini here. Joe is a TWiRT virgin. Good to have you here, Joe.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
You are a broadcast engineer, long time going.
Yeah, I've been an engineer, communications engineer for a long time. I started in broadcast, went into communications, and then bought some stations and came back, obviously.
And you're both station owners.
Yes.
Yeah.
At one time.
Right. And we also are all three of us are part owners of Star 94.3.
That's right. So you're looking at grand total could have put all of our shares together. What do we have? 3, 4, 5%? I don't know. I got 1%. That's all I got. What do you guys think?
I have 2 shares.
2 shares. Okay.
Okay. And I have 1.
Well, okay.
And this station is owned by quite a list of people. In fact, I was impressed when I saw the list of names on the door.
The FCC has a list as well.
They do.
Yes, they do.
But so Joe all by himself outvote. No, his vote. I mean, you and me can't outvote him.
He ties us.
He ties us. That's right. That's right.
You guys want to stop?
But we pretty much agree.
Hey, our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Nautel. And here's me to tell you about what's going on at Nautel this summer.
Get ready for Nautel's next Transmission Talk Tuesday discussion. It's coming up June the 6th, and the topic is going to be Get Grounded. We all know that Jeff Welton is, he's really hot on the topic of getting your transmission site properly grounded, your transmitters grounded, the equipment racks properly grounded, and, of course, the tower and antennas and coaxes properly grounded. Jeff has some strong and good ideas on how to do this, and his guests will be able to add to this as well. Plus, because this is a roundtable discussion, that's why it's called Transmission Talk Tuesday Discussions, because it's a discussion, you can participate. You can submit a question beforehand. You can ask a question during the roundtable discussion itself. Just raise your hand, and Jeff will let you in. And you can also just give your expertise. If you've got something to add, please do. Sign up, go to nautel.com/webinars, and then click on Transmission Talk Tuesday. Sign up for the June 6th Get Grounded. You can go ahead and sign up for the other ones as well, and that way you'll have them on your calendar. Nautel will send you an email a day and an hour beforehand to remind you that you signed up. Check it out, nautel.com/webinars.
Thanks a lot, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And Hal Kneller knows something about Nautel as well. Hal, what do you know about Nautel?
Well, I spent a few years there, and I worked in international sales and also for public radio stations. I did some of the grant work when the CPB and the PTFP were doing the digital conversions. But I was very impressed when the VS series came out because that was quite a mousetrap. There were amazing features that had never been put into one box before. You had the RBDS encoder. You had the optional audio processor. It had the web interface. It had all kinds of internet capabilities to send out alarms. They had something called Phone Home Nautel.
Yeah.
So that Nautel could actually see what was going on with your transmitter if you needed to troubleshoot. And you basically could find out what was wrong with the transmitter before you ever had to go to the site to see what was going on. You give you a notice, for example, if there were quite a few fans in the higher power versions.
Yeah,
it would tell you if a fan failed, but the transmitter would continue to operate. So it was really, I think, kind of a first as other manufacturers and other models started to integrate many of these features. I think Nautel really led the way in integrating all those things into one box.
And just to be clear, you said the S series, that's been around for a while, but they have a new series with the X series, correct, which is kind of interesting.
And that carries all of the stuff that we had before, but makes a smaller, more compact platform and actually much easier to service.
So let's say, why are we all here in Lihu'e, Hawaii at Star 94.3 KHKU? There was a little conference going on, and it's not a secret group, but it's they kind of keep some information internally. It's a bunch of station owners, typically called the International Broadcasters Idea Bank. And you guys are members of that, yeah?
Right, about 100 members.
Mm-hmm. Joe, how long have you been a member of the Idea Bank?
I first, I was on the waiting list back in 2017, I think, for a year. I've been a member ever since.
And why are you a member of the Idea Bank? What does it do for you?
Ideas.
Okay.
I mean, it is a great place for people from around the country to share ideas on radio and managing the stations and engineering, and you just name, just anything you would need to run a broadcast facility. You can learn from people that have been in the business for centuries.
And technically, I'm not a member myself. Larry Fuss, our business partner in this station, is a member, and he's been kind of a leader in the group. But I got representing a vendor who sponsored or helped sponsor this. I got to sit into some sessions and deliver a presentation. I'm totally impressed. You guys talk about some engineering things, although it's mostly owners, so it's kind of higher level engineering topics, how to save money on this or that. What did you do this last year to save money? But then they talk, of course, about sales and management and promotion and the industry at large. And I'm totally impressed by the ideas that people share. I guess most of the Idea Bank members are not themselves competitors with other members typically, right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So it doesn't share ideas as to, hey, here's what we did last year that made us a ton of money.
Yeah, exactly.
You find a lot of mentorship.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it. I mean, because they're not afraid to share what they're doing because we're not direct competitors anymore.
I thought, let's go ahead and tackle this topic that was in the news while we've been here in Lihu'e, and that is the whole topic of AM radio and electric vehicles, or EVs. We know that some companies, like BMW, I think, announced some time back that they wouldn't have AM radio receivers in their EV cars. I don't know if Tesla had made such a
Tesla took it out. They did let people know, but they took it out from cars that had it in there.
Mm-hmm.
When they did an update, they eliminated AM.
So the news that came down in the last few days was that Ford was going to eliminate AM from their EVs and put the industry kind of a buzz. What were your thoughts when you first heard that?
Well, it wasn't just EVs. In Ford's case, it was going to come out of what they call ICE, or internal combustion engine vehicles, as well.
Really?
So that was much bigger than just EVs.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that. Then there was a lot of buzz in the industry. It's not an election year, so somebody posted a lot of comments that are, I don't know what the word is, negative thinking for the whole radio industry. Like, guys, of course they're doing this. We haven't been doing our job in providing worthwhile programming on AM, and the FCC and all their AM revitalization for the past 10 years. Well, what's that really amounted to? I don't know. So I guess some people say, well, AM radio industry, you had it coming, and you're going to see more of this. But something turned it around. This guy seemed to think, well, NAB called some politicians called Ford, and then Ford made it. What did you see happening in the days of uncertainty, the past few days, when it looked like Ford was going to do this? There
was a lot of public comment. I mean, each radio station that I own, we push that point, especially in our talk station. We have 2 AMs that we need to keep them here. And the main reason for that, that we were pushing that, is that we just went through a hurricane back in September, was it?
Yes.
September. Mm-hmm. And the only stations on the air that anybody could hear anything from were the AM stations that were giving actual information on where to get help.
Is that because some FMs were off, or is that because FMs still had their automation job going?
Yeah, pretty much they still had their automation going. So they were not covering the state. We were covering the hurricane right through the whole hurricane. I mean, 24 hours for at least 2 or 3 weeks. I think we did on the air. So we were the information where people turned to.
Now, one argument that during this that I think I didn't see anybody else making, I made a couple of comments online, was that look, in today's politically correct world, we don't want to do anything that disadvantages or further disadvantages minorities. And where do you find minority broadcasters typically? This is not a broad brush, but typically in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live, we have 8 Spanish language AM stations.
Yes.
Now, that is more than a third of the AM radio dial in Nashville, Tennessee. And Nashville's not known for being a hotbed of Hispanic community.
Right.
So I would think that that disadvantaged communities would be in a position to raise a ruckus about this. Hey, you are really hurting us, because that's how Spanish-speaking people get their music and get their news and get their commentary, is from AM radio. Do you see? Am I off base with that?
And in other cities, like San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C., there's other ethnicities that are on. Some of them are time brokerage stations, and you'll have 2 hours of Vietnamese, and you'll have an hour of Greek or whatever. But there's Asian formats in some of the markets where there's a lot of Asians. So it's not just Hispanic. But you're correct. There's a lot of minorities represented in the AM world. Plus, I think even a more compelling argument that's beyond the minorities is the fact that it's really the EAS system and the emergency notifications and everything else through the AM. And when somebody pointed out at our recent conference the other day about it's a lot easier when things go really bad in a storm or earthquake or whatever, it's a lot easier to string a wire and get an AM back on the air than it is to get an FM on.
That is a good point. Yeah. Joe, do you have any stations?
Yes.
Oh,
I have 2 stations, 2 AMs.
Okay.
I have FM transmitters. One of my AMs is actually a hybrid HT, Nautel equipment. A little plug there.
Now I'll touch on it just briefly. Certainly, there were commenters online who said, "Well, this is Ford or this is politicians thinking about hurting conservative talk radio." And I thought, well, you could go there, and I'd almost be willing to go there, but there's enough technical and statistical data for a company like Ford, like BMW, like Tesla to say it's just too difficult, and it's not worth the expense and the difficulty. Now, I have a little bit of problems with it not being worth the expense, but hey, if you save $10 worth of components over a million vehicles, well, that'll pay for a couple.
It turns out it's a software update.
Right.
Well, it's a software. It's different interference. Yeah. So, I don't know. Tom Ray, our friend, engineer friend Tom Ray, made some comments about. Well, he has done work on a lot of cars himself to get rid of impulse noise, and I don't know if it's the same solutions for AM and EV, or if you actually need to do some things around the motor itself, or among some of the circuits that may produce a whine.
The CPUs create hash in the cars.
Okay.
But that's true in ICE cars as well. There's a lot of computer stuff in ICE cars as well.
So are manufacturers wanting to actually cut costs and do less shielding and have cheaper manufacturing methods because of that?
I don't think I really don't think it's a cost thing.
Oh, okay.
This is my opinion now.
Yeah.
So take it for what it is.
Yeah.
My opinion is, and they've kind of shown this, is that they want a subscription model.
Ooh.
So they get. So you have to subscribe to get. If you want AM in your car, you got to subscribe with us. So they're going to get this monthly fee for it. That's my take on it.
That's an interesting take. Although in this whole world of subscription models, there's generally a free option. If you think about software or phone plans, wouldn't be a good comparison. But there's generally some way to get something free, but it's lower quality. It's good enough for maybe what you want to satisfy some people. Remember back with the phone company when a touchtone phone cost extra, like $1.50 extra a month, just to have touchtone. But you could have a dial phone that didn't cost any extra per month. I'm wondering why can't the industry, and I hate to put the radio industry in the position of we're the free option because we're not as good. No, we're the free option because you have to listen to ads, or you have to donate if it's public or supported radio. Isn't that model a good enough reason to have a free option in the car? Or are they thinking everybody's going to pay for every note of music ever come out of their speakers?
That is a very good question. I can't answer that one at all.
Well, a lot of the platforms they have in the car are free. For example, the streaming options. By that, I mean, you can get TuneIn in my car. I have a Tesla.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that's true. But my point is that SiriusXM gives the car manufacturers money.
Yeah.
They've been subsidizing car radios for years to get their platform in there. AM and FM, of course, doesn't subsidize them. But then are they getting money from CarPlay and these other streaming platforms that are in the connected car? I don't know. But certainly I've heard the argument that, well, SiriusXM won't be going away because of the money factor. And if AM goes away, FM could be next. who knows? But certainly FM has a significantly larger listenership than AM does. But that doesn't exclude some of the other reasons we've discussed already for having AM in there.
Yeah.
So one of the other arguments is also, well, you can get, your AM on TuneIn or on some other internet reactive receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem with that is, and this is a real world problem. Again, going back to the emergency thing, when the storm came through, the cell towers were down. And even now, when I'm driving around, there's times when I lose the station. I don't get anything for minutes or more.
Especially in more rural areas.
Right. So it's not replacing the AM radio. It's not replacing the FM.
And if anybody tried to use their cell phone after a storm, even if the tower were still up, you may see bars.
Yeah.
But there's no bits left.
Yes.
So you're not getting anywhere. And the same is true over on the data side, which is where you would be streaming from. So you really need that battery operated radio to be able to listen at home, get the emergency information, or in your car.
And by the way, that brings up one of our sponsors we're going to hear from later on. I was going to say there's a couple ways to help make sure you do get some data. One is that AT&T FirstNet, and then the other is Josh Holmes Max Connect, which has some real advantages. But hey, we're talking to Hal Kneller and Joe Fiorini. They are here in Lihu'e, Hawaii, and we're at the studios of Star 94.3 in Lihu'e. It's This Week in Radio Tech, our 645th episode. We're actually recording this on Wednesday because a lot of these guys are going to Pongo Pongo, American Samoa on Thursday. And so we weren't able to, I think, these guys won't be here, and let's talk to them. Our show is brought to you in part by our great friends at Broadcast Bionics. We'll be right back.
Camera One from Broadcast Bionics. Designed to bring video to your audio content. Visualizing radio and podcasts for social media. Camera One can automatically create, capture and brand professionally switched video for live streaming or upload, making your production shareable. Control and configure using a web browser on any device. Camera One is available as a 4-camera or 8-camera system using the Blackmagic A10 Mini range, including the A10 Mini Extreme. You can use cameras to suit your studio and your budget. You'll need one camera for a studio wide shot and usually one camera per microphone. A standard multi-channel sound card or IP driver monitors audio from each studio microphone, and we work natively with Axia systems. Ideally, this will be a post-fader feed from each mic, although you can use pre-fade audio or a mic split if that's all you have available. These audio levels are used to intelligently switch the video feed when each contributor is talking. You can also group microphones together into one shot and use the audio from a mixer's aux bus. You can use Camera One's auto switch feature, or disable it and switch using the on-screen buttons or the buttons on the A10. Recordings can automatically start when you tell the system you're on the air. This on-air indication can be linked to your studio's red lights via IP or an Avantec Adam GPIO interface. You can quickly browse all the videos that have been automatically created during your broadcast, download them and post. Camera One is a user-installable system. You'll need a good spec Windows 10 PC, i7 with plenty of storage and 16 gig of RAM. It's better if this machine isn't used for anything else. Remember, you can control the software in a web browser on another device on your network. Camera One, a thrifty way of creating scroll-stopping video from your show or podcast from Broadcast Bionics.
Thanks a lot to Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And I don't want to keep saying, but we're going to have Dan McQuillan on with some really interesting news and a demonstration of his virtual rack system. And it makes virtualizing with containerized technology really easy, not just with containers from Telos Alliance, my employer, but also from some other manufacturers as well. I really believe that this is the future because the IT industry is all over this, and Dan has made this easy. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. We're recording this on Wednesday, May 24th. It is around lunchtime in Lihu'e, Hawaii, and that means you're having dinner at this time on the East Coast, or maybe you've already finished. Maybe you've already passed the cocktail hour, and you've moved on to something else. We are here in the studio at Star 94.3 with Joe Fiorini and Hal Kneller. Hello, gentlemen. Good to have you here.
Hello.
They are station owners and engineers and just done all kinds of things in the world of broadcasting. Joe, I'm a little bit interested. You told me earlier that you had been in the communications engineering area.
Right.
Was that like two-way radio sort of thing? Or?
Two-way radios, the first version of cell phone.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Prior to cell phones, the IMTS phone.
Oh, my gosh.
Analog stuff. Yeah.
So
So
what's the elevator pitch story about how did you find yourself in broadcast engineering and then ownership?
Oh, so in high school, we had a radio station, and I was actually a program director for 2 years at that high school station, and I was always interested in electronics, so I went and got my first class ticket, FCC license. For those of you who are unaware, it was a required thing to work on anything that had RF. And
tell me about first class licenses, Grandpappy.
Yeah, exactly. So I was always interested in radio, and I wanted to get into radio, and I left when I graduated from high school. Actually, just before I graduated from high school, I went and worked for one of the local stations, and worked there for about a month. And he sold the stations. Oh, and people came in, fired everybody. And so I said, well, where can I use my licensing and get work right away? And that was the communications field.
Okay.
So that's how that's the short story. And then as the years went by, there's a whole lot of other things that happened through the years. I actually became a cop for 20 years and got into computer forensics. And while I was doing that, I said, I want to get back into radio. So I bought a radio station.
All right, I've got to stop you there and ask you more about this line of computer forensics. That is to sound because on these CSI shows they do these things, and sometimes they do things that no, that's not real. They can't do that. Or maybe I see things. Well, that's a pretty good idea how he went and found that. So what did you find fascinating about computer forensics?
You can't hide anything.
You can't.
It doesn't matter if you erased it. There's so much information on any computer device that if you know how to extract it, you can get that information out. It doesn't matter if it was erased 3 years ago. It's more than likely at least a portion of it is still on that hard drive or device, that memory device. So you learn how to dig into those areas of the computer that normal people don't dig into, don't have any idea even exists out there. So a lot of information there. And as things went along, we started interfacing with people like Google, and your cell phone knows everything about you. So we were doing cell phone extractions, getting things out of cell phones that people didn't even remember they had on there. And it basically solved a lot of crimes along the way. My specialty was in the crimes against children, internet crimes against children, which it wasn't a fun job, but I got to put some people away, and that makes it worth it.
So would you say that you had some job satisfaction in putting creepy people away?
Absolutely. That was the whole motivation behind it. Yes.
Gotcha. Well, Hal, I want to stay on the computer forensics for just a second. Let me get my camera straight here. There we go. Are there things that you learn in computer forensics that you think are basic that a broadcast engineer / IT person should know? What might you have found out that would be helpful to a guy like me in my everyday job as taking care of engineering IT for some radio stations?
Well, I guess just being able to go in there and get things that you think you lost. That's probably a big one, because a lot of people go, oh my God, I just erased that. Where'd it go? How do I get it back? It's possible. You can do that. I mean, you got to know how to do it, but you got to know where to look. But there are so many different copies of most everything that you do on a computer that it's going to be in there somewhere.
Are there some programs that you use that would be available to the general public as opposed to police departments or FBI?
There are some programs out there that don't do quite as good of a job. Where, as a matter of fact, when I was learning that subject, we used readily available programs, and then we learned how to dig into it from there and actually parse the information out separately and actually find the strings of code that represented that picture or that message or that software. You just got to know how to do it and dig into it.
So it sounds like there are breadcrumbs everywhere. And we think of our phones as maybe a bit more ephemeral, but you're saying they have a lot on them as well.
Yeah, you can, if you have law enforcement access. And again, it's not specific to a phone, so you got to dig through a lot of information that you can get from the carriers. To find it, you got to do a lot of digging because, of course, the privacy thing. You don't want, people think, oh my gosh, that's a privacy violation. Well, it's not, because law enforcement gets this big fire hose of information, and then we got to go through manually and figure out where this is coming from.
If you're going to do bad things, is it a good idea to use a so-called burner phone and throw it in the lake when you're done with your bad business?
I don't think that works. Honestly,
really,
because that information is still there. I mean, it's in the tower sites.
Oh,
if we as law enforcement find that phone number, you called somebody and it's on their phone and we know they're connected to you. Whatever.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, there's so many different ways to do that. Or we can find that information and narrow it down to this phone and figure out where that phone came from.
So and certainly we've seen from our own government and hearings and things in the last few years, if you send the text and you get rid of your phone, well, guess what? It's still somewhere else. On somebody else's phone, and maybe on a server somewhere too. Yeah.
Depending on what service you use to send it, yeah. But most of the time you're going to find it on somebody else's phone.
Wow. All right. Hal, you've been very, very quiet here. Are you being polite, or are you under indictment?
No, I've known Joe a long time.
Hal, what's been on your engineering radar lately? We talked to you a few months ago after the big hurricane. Was that you?
Yes, Kevin Trueblood from WGCU in Fort Myers and I were on your show. We talked about all of the rain and the winds and the flooding and the problems that broadcasters had recovering down there. It was quite something. In fact, there's just so much damage from that storm that people are still getting new roofs, and a lot of work has yet to be completed.
You talked to us after, a few weeks after it was over,
right?
And I'm not going to ask you to see if any further thoughts you had from that time. But this morning, both of you saw some slides, some pictures of the tsunami over in American Samoa from a few years back.
Yeah, we did.
And we ended up not being able to be in our building for a week, and not even having running water and toilet service for quite some time afterwards. We broadcast from a transmitter site that we did have road access to. Did that seem like to you the best thing that we could have done at the time? I don't know what else we could have done.
We actually had a major network station in town in Fort Myers that ended up having to broadcast from their tower site because their studios got flooded.
You could hear the transmitter blower noise on the air, and if you look carefully, you could see elbows, transmission line pieces on the floor. I mean, this was put together very quickly. So a lot of people still didn't have electricity, couldn't watch television, but they were simulcasting it on the same tower at the same site was their 100,000 watt FM station. So they were able to get it to people via the radio who could not get TV.
Oh, that was good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you find out in the hurricane about towers being felled by hurricane force winds?
I don't think we actually had any in our area that came down. There may have been some damage. I had some STL antennas that got twisted around. I did find out that you have to have your transmission line tied in really good to the tower. Because one of mine got blown off the tower, transmission line, just gone.
And I'll bet the way that starts is there some section of transmission line that sorry, I'm messed. There's some section of transmission line that's loose, it starts vibrating in the wind, and then that breaks another one, then it vibrates more, and another one vibrates more, and pretty soon the whole thing's. That happened to us in Mississippi, probably more due to poor installation. And not going back and checking it. Yeah. But if I guess most coax on a tower, they recommend about 3 feet between hangers. Pretty frequent. And you think, well, this is way too many hangers. But no, it's there. It's vibration. It's not just generally falling off. That's the last thing that happened. Right.
Yes, there was antenna and line damage. I don't know in our area that we lost any broadcast antennas. I'm sure some other towers did go down in the storm. And another thing that we learned, and this was actually mentioned in our meetings over the weekend here, internet is not necessarily your friend in a situation like this, because I know we have 2 internet connections at some of our transmitter sites just for redundancy. Both were down. Yep. So 950 SDLs, assuming the antennas didn't blow off AIM. We had that too. We've got stiff arms now on some antennas that did not have stiff arms before. But the 950 would survive, assuming the antennas are still working. Whereas I think it was close to a week before we got our internet back.
Yeah, well, up in Arcadia, up where my country station is, it was about a week.
In Port Charlotte, the same.
And that was 2 different services. So
same thing. We had in Port Charlotte 2 different services, and they were both out. So we had no way to feed that transmitter at that particular point.
That's interesting. Normally having 2 internet providers at a location keeps you pretty safe. Of course, I'm curious, in your case, when both internet providers were out, did those 2 providers have a commonality, like were they on the same telephone poles? Or
no.
Wow.
No, their systems were down, and one was a DSL, and the other was a business grade internet connection cable.
Yeah.
Neither were fiber. Fiber's not available at that particular site, so we've never had both of those services be down before at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but trying to call the internet companies on the phone during that time. Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
I finally reached somebody who was, I think, in Idaho, in a call center, and they said, "Yeah, we have no specific time estimated for return of that particular service." Yeah. So it was beyond their capabilities to really know.
So it sounds like the best case scenario is if you can transmit from the transmitter side, assuming you can have power there. Obviously, then you have no STL.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah. That's true. But this happened to be in a situation where they were as a studio in Sarasota, and there were 5 different transmitter sites all carrying that same program. So it was out of 950 STL range, about 40 miles from Sarasota, and it's just there was no other way to get audio to it. We did find eventually a wireless provider that did have connectivity, and we connected to them and got it back on that way.
Yeah, actually, that's how I got my FM translator that's on my AM. My AM stayed on because of that. The AM transmitters at the tower site, at its tower. The translator was on this other tower when I lost the transmission line. The way I ended up getting it back on is there's a spare antenna on the tower, which is good. Put that on there, and then I used Max Connect actually to get a signal to that site.
One of the things to think about, I guess, the more moving parts you have, the more something can keep you from being on the air. on the one hand, AM and FM, well, they both involve towers, but the FM involves something that's also on the tower. And you just as you mentioned, transmission line can, if it's not put on right and maintained well, certainly can vibrate and eventually break off. And I guess we've all had that happen now. With AM, the whole tower would have to come down. And as we discussed off camera, a long wire could put you back on the air. So let me ask this question about long wire. What does an engineer have to know in order to make a long wire work? And let's consider that you don't have a tube transmitter, you have a solid state transmitter. I've done this before, and just by the skin of my teeth and the grace of God, I was able to get something going without too much reflected power. What's your advice that an engineer, what would he have to know to make that work?
You got to be able to adjust the tuning network.
Yeah.
Because an old tube transmitter would go into a coat hanger, as we joked, but these new ones, you've got to do some impedance matching. It's going to be pretty hard to get a long wire antenna to just luckily match.
Well, a long wire antenna, isn't it very likely to have a very low impedance unless you got a lot of wire? And maybe I'm overgeneralizing your opinion, too broad a brush, but my experience has been that you're trying to match into a really low impedance, 4, 5, 10, 12 ohms, I don't know, something like that with a long wire.
Well, the amateur radio community has been doing that forever.
Oh yeah, of course.
And they got it down to science. I mean, that's kind of how I ended up getting into amateur radio, was learning how to do stuff, how I can broadcast around the world from a piece of wire hanging out, between a tree and my house. So,
well, except for the 160 meter band, though, we're talking about generally a lot higher frequencies and a much shorter wavelength.
Right. So I mean, there's calculations you can make on the length of the wire, provided you have the wire, and then if you've got a good output tuning network that you can adjust, you can usually get it to a point where it's gonna work. It's not gonna be the best, but it's gonna work.
We have an OIB, so we could put it on there and try to get it close.
Right.
And I'll throw the big word. That's operating impedance bridge.
Yes.
For the few newbies out there, what is an OIB? I just said what it is, but what does that actually mean, an operating impedance bridge?
You can put power from the transmitter to the antenna through it, and you can read the impedance and the reactance simultaneously.
Of the load.
Okay. And you want to get to, in typically 50 ohms with no reactance. That's perfect. You don't have to get it quite perfect, but with these newer transmitters, you need to get it close. Some of the newer transmitters do not have tuning and loading controls on them.
Right.
So that means that you've got to do all of that work either by, how you're feeding the antenna or by adjusting the tuning box to match. Some of the older solid state transmitters do have tuning and loading. The newer ones, I guess it's a cost cutting measure, right? They sell one manufacturer I know sells it as an option.
Right. But I would think that you could probably take that option from that manufacturer and put it on the output of one of the other manufacturers, because they're all standardized at 50 ohms.
Oh, I would agree with that completely. The problem is if you don't have one of those, then you're needing to do all of that adjusting in the tuning box at the antenna.
We're talking to Hal and Joe. Hal Kneller on the right side of your radio dial, and Joe Fiorini on the left side of your radio dial. They're both a couple of station owners and engineers, and have lived storied lives in the broadcasting world. I'm Kirk Harnack, and This Week in Radio Tech. And I'll tell you what, we're going to ask a little question before our next little break here, and we're going to give the answer at the end of it. Now, most of you who hear this question are going to think, well, duh, I know that. But this is an actual question that was regularly asked by an actual broadcast engineering manager when he would interview people for a job. And here's the question. He would say, my son, imagine I have a broadcast transmitter that has an output impedance of 50 ohms, and it would like to have no reactance that it was looking at. To what impedance would I connect it to? In other words, what kind of load would it want to see for maximum efficiency? And we'll have I know a lot of you, well, duh, but and you know what? If the applicant couldn't answer that, There's the door, buddy. We'll be back with the answer, because I got 3 guys in this room that probably know the answer, and we'll be right back after this word from Broadcasters General Store.
Hey, if you're like me, you've used a lot of broadcast tools, equipment in your broadcast facility. They make things that are great for radio and TV. Yeah, most of it's audio gear for radio, but also for television as well. And at this year's NAB show, they featured a number of products, some of them brand new. Now, let's take a look at the AES-DA distribution amplifier, 1 in, 6 out for AES EBU signals or word clock. It features dual power input jacks to allow for redundant power with an optional second power supply. And the system's transformer isolated input uses a standard XLR audio jack for those balanced AES EBU signals. And there's the Audio Sentinel Plus WebRJ. It's a web-enabled dual-channel stereo silent sensor and phase monitor. It has an integrated transparent 2x1 switcher, and so when silent and or out-of-phase audio is detected, it can automatically switch to the backup input via mechanical latching relays. Broadcast Tools, Don Wingett there designed so many good things that are just right for the radio business. And hey, did you know about this? It's new, this Boxer Relays 6. It's 6-channel optically isolated relay module. It's perfect for converting GPO outputs from your AOIP system and other devices into dry contact closures. Most of these AOIP systems, they give you collector to ground, and that's great for a lot of applications, but sometimes you need a single pole double throw relay. Maybe you need a normally closed contact. Maybe you need a normally open contact. Either way, the Boxer Relay 6 will help you out. You can go to their website at broadcasttools.com to see these featured products for the NAB Show 2023 and the entire product line, plus support for manuals and just all the things they have to offer at broadcasttools.com. Get it, the entire line is available at Broadcasters General Store. I love these people. bgs.cc is the website. 352-622-7700 is the number for Broadcasters General Store in Ocala, Florida. That's 352-622-7700. Love these folks. Broadcasters General Store.
We're back on This Week in Radio Tech. Thanks to Broadcasters General Store at bgs.cc, or call them at 352-622-7700. That's our terrible wide shot. I'm sorry, it's the best I can do. We're in the same studio here. Kirk Harnack along with Joe Fiorini on your radio left, and also Hal Kneller on your radio right. We're doing This Week in Radio Tech. And again, thanks to Broadcasters General Store. I do want to make mention that someone who I have come to know and love, and that is Shane Finch. I got to go on a business trip with Shane and Dave Kirsten from BGS. Well, Shane unfortunately passed away a few days ago, and arrangements are still getting made. But a lot of you knew Shane Finch either from Enco, his days there, or with Music Master. Also, he was an on-air personality, and that's his personality shown through on the air, but also just in managing a business like BGS and dealing with customers. And I tell you what, I really grew to appreciate Shane, and I thought maybe I'd give Joe and Hal just a moment to also mention if they had any interactions with Shane Finch. Joe, how about you?
I really didn't. I think I met him one time when I was with Hal.
Yeah.
Because you can't go anywhere with Hal in the broadcast business that he doesn't know everybody. But I've heard nothing but good things about him.
They're all true. Hal, how about you?
I have just come across him in passing. Didn't know him well. It was certainly sad news when I heard, because they're like a family operation.
They are, yeah.
And they've been a family opoperation for 40 years? That place has been around 50 years.
If you happen to follow me on Facebook back, I'm sorry, I forget the date, but it's earlier this year. Maybe it was in March. It was before NAB. We made a trip together to New York City. Dave Kirsten, Shane Finch, and me. Also my wife was along, and got to see a lot of cool radio stations. And there's some pictures on Facebook of Shane. I'm sure people have posted plenty more. Well-loved broadcast community. Very sorry to see Shane pass, and Godspeed to Shane. Thanks a lot again to Broadcasters General Store for weathering through, soldiering through, and being there for us engineers and broadcasters whenever we need them. All right, we asked a bit of a trivia question, and actually, it's not just trivia. This question was asked by a well-known broadcast engineering manager, director of IT and engineering. I don't know if I should say it. Well, I'll say his name because everybody, and this is totally expected. Tom McGinley. Tom McGinley, some people know him as Magoo. He worked I met him in Baltimore when he worked there, but then he moved out to CBS Radio on the West Coast in Seattle, and now he's in Missoula, Montana. And Tom had this question for anybody applying for a job with him, and that was, to what impedance would I connect a transmitter that had a characteristic impedance of 50 ohms and J0? And Joe and Hal are here with a stab at the answer. What do you think, gentlemen?
I think it's probably 50 ohms.
50 ohms.
J0.
Pretty much.
What do you think?
Yeah, you want to match it up, don't
Plus
you?
or minus a small amount.
Yeah. And okay, so what is the reason that we connect? We know the characteristic impedance of the source, that would be a transmitter, and we want to connect it to a similar characteristic impedance. And why is that?
Maximum power transfer.
Yes, exactly.
And we may be able to adjust the characteristics of the antenna, or the manufacturer could, but the transmission line, that's pretty fixed. And we need everything to be the same characteristic resistance and impedance all the way through. Do I have that kind of right, gentlemen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've sort of narrowed it down to 50 ohms now, but you have the open wire lines.
Right.
In the old days. A lot of stations were built with 75 ohm line for whatever reason years ago. Pretty much everything's 50 ohms now, unless there's some old system still kicking around.
And I remember hit the wrong button again. There we go. You remember the whiskey cup adapters to adapt? I forget, from 51 to 50 or 50 to 51 or 51.5.
The RCA line.
The RCA lines. Yeah. There was some that was 51.5 ohms characteristic impedance because those were the stock sizes available that were easy to find in the industrial manufacturing world. And so they just used that pipe to make transmission line. But at some point, someone says, let's just make this 50 and we'll make the line for us. Right. All right.
Well, some stations that set their common point a little bit off, 54 ohms, because you could do 10 amps of common point current, for example.
Oh, instead of 5. Oh, so the numbers were nice and round. So
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
And the transmitters in those days didn't care.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. But today they do. I don't know the answer. Why were tube transmitters maybe more forgiving of what you connected them to than a solid state transmitter?
That's a good Joe question.
Thank you, Hal. I was kind of out of the tube end of things for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, is it because tubes could put up with a lot of reflected power, and solid state devices are like, no, I don't want that. No, I'm giving you all I got right now anyway. I don't want any back.
It's a good guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
No returns.
Yeah, the tubes had a lot more tolerance. For example, if you short-circuited a transistor circuit that wasn't well protected, that transistor is going to blow instantly. Yep. You do that to a tube transmitter, and the tube will start to get red, but you've got some time. It's not going to snap it right on the spot.
That's a good point. Hey, we were going to do a little talking about something that comes up a lot. It's been one of my topics for years, and that's audio over IP, and how that, it was almost 20, it was 19 years ago when my employer, Telos Alliance, introduced LiveWire audio over IP. Now, at the same time, Dante was being developed in Australia, and they were about 6 months apart in the development, and they were hitting different markets. Audinate, the owner of Dante and that protocol, went after the much larger professional sound market, which is different than the broadcast market. And so Telos, Axia, was going after the broadcast market. Well, anyway, one thing that I don't know if Steve Church foresaw this, but he had a dream of every audio device having an Ethernet jack on it and the audio just flowing over computer networks. And to a large extent, that's what happens. Yes, the computer network's got to be right. You can't be throwing Wi-Fi hotspots and expect LiveWire or WheatNet or anything else, or Ravenna to pass those kinds of things. But on a proper network, that's going to work fine. So what we didn't know is what we've been really pointing out lately. And if all your audio is on IP, that enables so many further things you can do. It enables you putting what was traditionally 4 screws in a rack box that goes in the rack. It enables you taking that functionality and putting it into a computer, not only as a virtual machine, but then eventually as what's called a Docker container. And those are very manageable on a large scale. So if you're managing a bunch of radio stations, like if you're a state broadcaster, Swedish Radio, for example, or other state level broadcasters, Australian Broadcasting Company, for example, you can manage a whole lot at the same time. So let's throw the camera back over to Joe and Hal, and tell me about your experiences. Joe, I believe you got a Dante studio set up.
Yeah. Both my studios, when I bought the studios, they were both 100% analog, which was a little scary to me, with my computer background. And I researched the options, and I thought, well, I could put a Dante system together pretty easily and lower cost at the time. I know it wasn't specifically designed for broadcast, but it worked. So we ripped all the old analog stuff out. We put in Dante equipment, Dante everywhere. So now it's Cat 5, one piece of Cat 5 from my console to the rack, and everything comes in on Cat 5, and I control it by the computer, and I can control it from here if I wanted to.
That's a really cool thing that enables a lot of control options. Here we are in Lihu'e, Hawaii, and I'm the director of engineering for the company, right? So I'm back in Nashville, Tennessee, and sometimes there's things that need to be done here, or repurposed, or moved, or whatever it may be. When somebody may want different mic processing when they get on the air, or we're swapping out a production computer today. I could have done that without being here, but I was here, and it's a good time to swap it out. So, but actually, come to think of it, the new production computer is largely 90% ready to go with IP drivers and IP addresses and all that. Audacity and Adobe Audition are already installed in it. It's almost ready to go. In fact, these guys are going to help me out, just moving things around, watching over my shoulder. So IP enables a lot of other things that we want to do in broadcasting that would be really difficult to do without the convenience of IP. Hal, you've got some experience yourself with audio over IP. Tell us what your experience is.
Yes, this is interesting, Kirk. Between the three of us, we all work in 3 different ecosystems, but it's audio over IP.
Yeah.
I've done 2 radio station Wheatstone installations. So what I've noticed, I go back to the days when you had a rack room and you had studios and you had large multi-pair cables running down the hallway.
Like this side.
Yes. Oh yeah. And then a separate cable for control. Multi-pair cable. Maybe you used a 25-pair telephone cable or whatever. And in some older installations, you can still see under the computer floors how many layers of wires are in there. And it was such a relief when we did this new build out in Sarasota, and the number of wires that we had to run between the studios and the rack room. You could count on the fingers in your hands. It's just unbelievable. I know in Axia World, you call them X nodes.
Yeah.
In Wheatstone, we call them blades.
Yeah.
But the concepts are similar. And you put a blade or an X node in a certain location, and then it's one wire connecting it back to wherever.
And actually,
and all the sources in the plant are immediately available in any location. If we wanted to have, let's say, the old Marty receiver going to 3 different studios, we had to run that wire 3 times to those studios.
And a distribution amp was involved. Right?
Oh yes,
which added noise and clipping and all that.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we've eliminated all that, but just think about that. There's basically a couple of Cat 5 wires running between the rack room and the studio, and your headphones are taken care of, and your speakers, and all of the sources, whether they're in this room or a different room. I mean, there are so many advantages, and the time that it takes to build a studio. I mean, we used to take weeks to build a facility, right? Weeks. Right. Now it's days.
Right. So what do you do when you got WheatNet? I buy a new radio station, and it's got
something else.
Or Axia stuff and WheatNet over there, and Dante over here. Well, good news is they can actually all talk to each other. Not with all the control that they have, in their native environments, but the audio itself can be routed based on the AES 67 standard.
I wonder if you're going to go there. Indeed, AES 67. And AES 67 is great as long as you don't mind a little bit of typing, or maybe a lot of typing, because there are strings to type out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the common language that all these systems can speak to some degree or another. It's interesting that the control protocols are all different. They're proprietary. There's AES 70, which is a proposed control protocol, and I just don't know that it's people haven't adopted it, because people are pretty well invested in their own control protocol.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. I wonder. Well, I wonder what's next. I do think that audio over IP is computer networks are going to be with us for quite a while. There's nothing magical on the horizon yet to replace that. They're getting more convenient. They're getting more secure. We can do more things with them. And sure, there's a lot to learn. There's whole areas of specialty in terms of security, or approved access. It's a continuing developing world, but the underlying basis of packets that have a from and to address on them, or a multicast address. Hey, who wants me? Mr. Switch, take care of distribution for me. These protocols have just been really good for our industry.
Operational flexibility that you never had in an analog plant.
Exactly.
Especially if something breaks and you need to reroute studios to a different studio or whatever instantly.
Yeah.
No moving wires. And if you don't like where the mixtures are, if you got a right-handed person and a left-handed person and they want the mic over here or mic over there, in the old days we actually had to move a cable. Imagine that connector. Now we just dial it up and
right. How easy is it to change what each fader does now on the console?
With labels,
just by clicking on a couple of buttons, and it switches them automatically. It's not like I don't have to go in the back and start moving things around.
And the logic moves with it.
Yeah. There's a video I did a few years ago with Dan McQuillan of Broadcast Bionics, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, where Dan says we surveyed a lot of presenters on BBC and other commercial stations around, and we asked them what would the next studio look like, what were they really looking for as an improvement in their studios, and the answer that came back quite surprising was they wanted more cushions and daylight. So it's a good little video. It's quite inspirational. I'll put that in the show notes. Hey, we got to take a quick break. It's Kirk Harnack along with Hal Kneller and Joe Fiorini. We're going to have actually not much time in the show. We got a tip of the week coming right up after words from Angry Audio and Max Connect Wireless. We'll be right back.
As broadcast engineers, we spend a lot of our time connecting things together, but sometimes it's just as important to be able to disconnect something. What am I talking about? This is the Angry Audio Disconnector. The disconnector. So here you have something that you just put in series with your headphones, with your Talents headphones. Now, this is available in the 1/4-inch tip ring sleeve size, as you see here. Also available in the 3.5 millimeter size. And you can even mix and match inputs and outputs. The point is, this is what's in the middle. This is the disconnector. So you have a talent that forgets to take their headphones off. They get up, they start to walk away, and boop, look at that. No more damage to the connectors that you normally use. No more damage to the headphone jack on the audio console or under the furniture. Oh, look, it just went back together, and I wasn't even trying. It's magnetic. It's the disconnector, or the headphone disconnector from Angry Audio. Disconnector. No more broken connectors. Check it out on the web at angryaudio.com.
With all of the recent cybersecurity attacks against large corporations, we were looking for a product that would give us the ultimate security at our transmitter sites and as well as with our broadcast equipment. Max Connect fits the bill very well. Its greatest security feature is the fact that it gives you a single static IP address. Using this single static IP address allows us to close hundreds of open ports on our firewalls across the company and restrict access to only the Max Connect IPs. This has greatly reduced our exposure to the World Wide Web and made us much more secure moving forward. It has also given us the ability to expand as needed in a secure fashion.
Max Connect Wireless, it works when your phone doesn't. It really does. As far as data is concerned, it'll get you on the data channel on the nearest cell tower and get you going, get you on the air. We've used it here at This Week in Radio Tech, and we've also used it at the SBE. And let me tell you, literally hundreds of broadcasters are using Max Connect Wireless now to do real remote broadcasts and as a backup for their transmitter site. It works great for getting audio to the transmitter site if things are down otherwise, like the tornado that hit my STL tower. Check them out, maxconnectwireless.com. Thanks a lot for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech.
All right, we got a final tip of the week here. We were talking during the break here in the studio about what's a good tip to leave people with, and the overwhelming response was, I'll leave it to Joe Fiorini. Joe, what did we say?
Back up everything.
Back up everything. Yes.
Even the EAS box.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, we had a DAS deck here and Sages elsewhere.
Right.
It saved me a couple of times.
So I'll put my version of the tip in, and I'm finally getting kind of good at remembering to do this. I used to remember to back up about an hour after I was told the device had failed, so that didn't really help. But now, when I get done configuring a device, most every device, whether it's an X Node or a Wheatstone Blade or an IP radio, to me that's really important. All these devices, Sage, EAS box. Hit a backup button, save that file. If you want to give it an extra name or put it in a special file folder or whatever, that's great, and save all that. But then Joe said, here, I'll turn the camera on Joe. Joe, come on, there we go. Joe said, I put mine on several computers.
Absolutely.
And that's brilliant. Hal, how about you?
I put them on a computer, and I also have them on a thumb drive.
Okay.
Offsite.
Another
one offsite.
Usually at my house.
So because
I carry it in my backpack.
Oh, there you go. We use Google Drive a lot, and I can access it from about anywhere, the phone or whatever. I have a folder on Google Drive that's for all my configuration backups. You have a folder per station, and then within that folder, it's pretty easy to figure out which device is which. But if I have to have separate folders for different rooms or hey, all my X nodes or my IP radios to do that, I got to tell you, American Samoa, that really saved my bacon. My good friend who's been on the show, Russ Lafferty, was there, and we had an IP radio failure while he was there. He grumbled because he was on the other end of the island. So I'm sorry, I can't help that. But he came back. We had a spare radio, but it was unconfigured. And oh my gosh, this could have taken a couple hours to configure because it's configured for live wire. So it's not just throw it up and hit the right frequency. No, it had some extra configuration to carry live wire to the transmitter site. And it was actually at the transmitter site. So he got up on the roof and hooked the radio up. But before he did that, before he left, it was at the studio on the floor. Before he did that, he hosed into it, and I pushed the backup configuration to that big honking double dish Air Fiber 5. And then he hauled it up to the transmitter site, and we were back on the air. I think grand total time, including his travel time, may have been 3 hours. Now, that's a long time, but pushing the backup into it, that took seconds. And it was just about ready to go after that. Any comments on backing up? Any more than that?
Just keep more than one copy, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Some manufacturers, WheatNet backs up to each blade.
It does, but it's still a good idea to have it somewhere else on a computer.
And
Dante, each device does. So if you lose Dante controller, or the server, then they'll still talk.
Yeah.
But if you put a new device in, well, you got a device that fails, you're going to have to put the configuration into that.
Gotcha. And different, actually, they have something called iProbe, which will go out and find all the Axia devices, consoles, nodes, all that kind of stuff, and tell you what version of software is in there, tell you if there's a new version available, and then back up all that configuration.
Dante does that.
Yeah. So use those. If I'm pointing the camera, use those from the manufacturers. Hey, we got to run. Like right now. It's about time to get out of here. Let me get the overall, get the studio cam here. A wide shot. Okay, click. There we go. I'm producing the whole show myself today. That's a disaster waiting to happen. We've got Hal Kneller with us, Joe Fiorini as well. I'm Kirk Harnack, and thank you for joining us on This Week in Radio Tech. We'll see you next week.